the shabd I'm going to do is Kusi kare nit jiyo nadiyan hove tenva. And what we're going to do is you can see before you that the instruments that we're playing are, you maybe have never seen them before. These are our traditional instruments. They date back hundreds of years, literally not just to the times of our gurus, but before the time of our gurus. The instrument that I'm playing is one of the most oldest Indian instruments. It's called a sarangi. Sarangi, that word is made from two words, Sau, which means 100, Rang, which means colours. So it's called a Saurangi because you can produce just about every emotion using this instrument. In every Bollywood film you've ever seen, there's a Sarangi track, especially when someone dies or when someone splits up or when a long lost brother is discovered or something sad or kind of emotional happens. There's always a Sarangi in there. So this instrument doesn't have frets. As you can see, there's no frets. You play with your nail. Just about see what I'm doing with my nail there. You play with your nail. It's not good if you wear nail varnish because it starts wearing off. But thankfully I don't wear nail varnish, so I'm okay. But seriously, there's no frets, so you rely entirely on pitch knowledge. We call it Sorgyan in Punjabi, in Indian. And the instrument to my left, to your right, is the rabab, the rabab. So when we hear stories of Guru Nanak Dev, our first master, travelling God knows how many miles, some people say 2,000 miles in his lifetime, 3,000, 4,000. We know he went as far as Mecca. We believe he went as far as Turkey, possibly to Istanbul, as far north as the Himalayas, to the Tibetan mountains. We know he went there. South, west, east, we know he travelled a real lot, but we know one thing, that at all times he had with him his best friend, a Muslim called Mardana, and that Muslim played the rabab everywhere Guru Nanak Dev went. So music was instrumental, excuse the pun, it was fundamental, it was an intrinsic part of that first Sikh experience. You could not possibly separate our roots and music. Yeah, that music is ingrained within the DNA of our roots. So that is the rabab. There are variations of that rabab. There's a huge, humongous rabab. It's literally about that big. That probably is not the rabab that Mardana travelled with because it's too big. Yeah. This rabab, if you have a look at the back, that little curve there is designed to sling it over your shoulder. So you just throw it over your shoulder and travel with it. So we are pretty sure that that is the rabab that Guru Nanak Dev travelled with. And then we also have with us, to my left behind me, a taus. That instrument is shaped like a peacock. And there's a story behind the taus. And the story goes as follows. Our sixth master, Guru Har Gobind, he was travelling what we call the Parikrama of Harmandir Sahib. You know, the area outside the Darbar Sahib, you've got it's like a square, and then you've got the bridge going in. He was travelling out there, and on the top of where the Akal Takht is, there was a peacock early morning and it was singing, and he just loved the sound. He was so taken aback by the sound. And what we are told is that Guru Har Gobind Sahib said that I want to create an instrument that sounds like that. And that's where the taus came from. It is shaped like a peacock and it sounds like a peacock. It's a very big instrument. It's a fretted instrument. You'll see the difference. Big difference is obviously size. They're both bowed. The sarangi and the taus is bowed. But the big difference is that the taus has frets on it. And finally, last but not least, we have the dilruba behind me to the right, and then we have the tabla as well. So we're going to sing now a very traditional reed. The words are very simple. Khusi kare nit jiyo, sagli dharti sakkar hove, khusi kare nit jiyo. We want you to try to sing with us. It's a very simple tune. Close your eyes. No one's listening to you, don't worry. No one can hear your pitch. Just try to sing with us. The words, maybe, I don't know if you guys are going to project them on there, but if not, they're on Sikhi to the max, okay? So, let me just tell you a bit about the structure. So not only are the instruments different, but the structure that you're going to see is a bit different. We're going to start off with some music. Okay, we're not going to sing, we're just going to play some music. And that music is referred to as a shan. Okay? So let me tell you what shan means. So, you know, families that have a rich heritage, they have a coat of arms. Yeah? That is what a shan is. It's a coat of arms. And every coat of arms is different. It belongs to a different family. They have a slightly different coat of arms. And Gauri, in our culture, they say, Sadi shan de vich nahi fark pena chahida. Yeah? And what that means is that, you know, our rich family tradition, we don't want it to impact our rich family tradition. The tradition has to stay as it is. So that's what they mean, ke shan de vich fark nahi pena chahida. Yeah? ਉਹਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵਿਆਹ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਤੇ ਸਾਡੀ ਸ਼ਾਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਫਰਕ ਪੈਂਦਾ ਆ. Yeah? So if you marry her, then our tradition will get spoiled. Yeah? So that's the shan. And the shan is designed to set the scene. Okay? Number one. That's one purpose. The other purpose is as follows. When I started, when I sat down, you all saw that I picked my bow up and I bowed down to it. Yeah. I bowed down to it out of respect for my instrument. Right? We respect these instruments. And before I did anything, before I tuned up, before I sing, I bowed to my instrument. So we give our instruments an opportunity to sing first. That's the shan. Then there'll be a short Mangala Charan, which is just a short prayer, and then we will start the Shabd. Okay? So I've spoken too much, and we're going to make a start now.
खुशी करे नित जियो
He travelled through areas of India which at that time were very, very dangerous to pass through. For example, he came into contact with cannibals, and we know now historically that there were cannibals in India at the time. We hear about Gordar Rakesh, we hear this wonderful story, wonderful. It's not actually wonderful, it's about a guy who tried to eat by Mardana, boil him alive and eat him. But when we look into it and we look at it historically, we find that actually at the time there were a lot of cannibal tribes in India. So this isn't just a fun story. It isn't just a story that excites us, places the Guru in danger. He was actually put into peril. Then we have the story of a Thug, Sajjan Thug. And again, if we now look into the history, we find that there were parts of India where Thuggi was a way of life. So you see, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. You've got those cannibals in there as well. And in the same film, there's also got thugs. That isn't a myth, it's not just a story we've made up, just to make it out that Guru Nanak Dev, oh wow, look, this great saint travelling through danger, putting his life at risk. This is actually what happened. So we hear the story of Sajjan Thug, who dressed as a saint, and on his land he had a mandir and a mosque on the same plot of land. On one side there was the mandir, and on the other side there was the mosque. And what used to happen was when a traveller came by, he'd insist that they stay with him. He would say, look, you've got a long way to travel, stay with me. If it was a Muslim, he'd say, look, you can pray at the mosque. We've got a room there, you can stay there. If it was a Hindu, he'd say, look, you can pray at the mandir. We have a room there, you can stay. And during the night, he would murder them, and he'd steal their money, their clothes, and he would throw them into a well. We know this happened because when the British went to India, they spent around 40 years trying to outlaw Thuggi. Took them 40 years to try to outlaw it, to the point that it is now almost entirely outlawed. It still exists, believe it or not, but we know for a fact that this existed. Now, when Guru Nanak Dev went to see Sajjan Thug, he met this wonderful saint who was very welcoming, invited him and Mardana to stay, and the Guru decided, yes, I will stay here. And he stayed night there. And during the night, in the evening, Guru Nanak Dev did what he did every evening, which is to say, Mardanya Rabab Sher. Mardanya touched the Rabab, which simply meant, let's do some kirtan. So, the Guru and Mardana are sitting there doing kirtan. Our Guru was a musician. This is the other thing we completely overlook. Does that feature in our psyche at all? That the founder of our faith was a musician. He sang every day. Another element that doesn't feature in our psyche was that his best friend was a Muslim. Never in his life, never in our history do we hear the story of Guru Nanak Dev saying to Mardana, you should become a Sikh. You should adopt my faith. That never features because it never happened. It's quite simple. So we have a Guru Nanak Dev, traveling with a Muslim, performing music every day, singing every day, and these are the foundations of our faith. Sometimes we need to just go back and reconnect with those foundations. But anyway, let's progress the story then. What happened is Guru Nanak Dev starts to play the music and starts to sing the shout. Quite possibly this shout, we don't know. It might very well have been this shout. And Sajjan, this thug, this bandit who used to kill visitors who stayed with him, take their money, take their clothes and throw them over into this well. As he was listening to this kirtan, his mind became overwhelmed with emotion. He just couldn't believe what he was hearing. The hair on his back was rising, his skin felt prickly, his heart started to race. He just could not believe what he was hearing. And as he was sitting there listening to the kirtan, he started to cry. And then when the Guru finished, Guru Nanak Dev looked at him and said, "My friend, you seem to have become overwhelmed with emotion. What is it?" And Sajjan Thakur confessed to Guru Nanak Dev and said, "This is who I am, this is what I do. And this is what I have been doing for many years. I have lost count of how many people I have killed. For me, this is a way of life. This mandir, this masjid, this mosque that you see is just a front. I'm actually a fake. There's not a religious or a spiritual bone or gene in my body. I'm a complete fake." Now, my friends, this man who confessed to the Guru, at least he got to the point where he made this confession. And sometimes, my friends, we have to reach that level of spirituality, because it actually takes a high spiritual plane. We have to be sitting at a very high spiritual plane to be able to confess like that. My friends, the point I wanted to make, in amongst all those little lessons that I wanted to convey there, is the power of that kirtan. That people like Sajjan, who had been committing murder all their life, they became overwhelmed by that kirtan. And the other message I wanted to project was that kirtan music is the foundation of our faith, it's the foundation of what we believe. And I hope that this experience tonight has provided you with an opportunity to connect with that music, to connect with that foundation. With these words, I know we haven't sang for a very long time. It's only been about half an hour. We beg forgiveness if we have made any mistakes. We beg forgiveness if we have offended you. We ask for forgiveness. We're going to finish the Shabt, and then we will do Ramkali and then the Ardas. I hope that's okay. 8:30. Is that good? A bit past 8:30. Is that good time to finish? Yeah? Okay. Kusi kare nit jiyo. Kusi kare nit jiyo. Kusi kare nit jiyo. Sagli tar to end with one of my favorite rags, Rag Ramkali. Let me tell you the story behind Ramkali. You know these rags, they all have many stories behind them. But let me tell you the story about Ramkali. So, I want you to cast your mind back again to the time of Guru Nanak Dev. You know about his journeys, but let's just go back a bit to the point where he decided, I'm now going to travel. The Guru comes home one day and he tells his wife, he's got 2 children by this time, they're very young. He tells his wife that I'm leaving, I'm going to travel. And I want you to imagine how his wife felt. I want you to think about this concept of izzat. I will be a wife whose husband has gone. People will ask, where has he gone? And I will say, I don't know. They will ask, when will he come back? And I'll have to say, I don't know. Will he come back? I don't know. How will you raise your children now that he's gone? I have no idea. These are the emotions that present themselves to the wife of Guru Nanak Dev. It is clearly a very sad moment, this. He did come back, but then he made 3 more journeys. And Ramkali is a very sad rag. It is absolutely layered with emotion, to the point that we call it Jogyada Rag. A yogi is a yogi. In those days, the yogis had to become celibate. They had to leave home. You were not allowed to be a yogi and be married, so you couldn't lead the life of a householder. That was just not on. Okay? So what happened was a yogi would say to his parents, I'm going to become a yogi. And that again would be a very sad moment, because they know, look, I'm never going to see my son again. Never going to see him again. This is it. This is the last moment that I have to spend with my son. Because the other thing with the yogis was they were never allowed to go back home. You turn your back, you walk away, and that's it. That's the end. You've turned your back on that life. You now look forward to your new life. And that is Ramkali. Ramkali has many stories, but that is one of them. So we're going to do the Anand Sahib, and then after the Anand Sahib we will do the Ardas. But we will begin with an Alab. And what I would like you to do, when we play this Alab, I just want you to cast your mind back to that moment when Guru Nanak Dev came home and he told his family that I'm leaving. Okay, just imagine what that moment was like.
Yeah. ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਮਨ ਮੇਰੇ ਸਦਾ ਰੋਹਾ ਨਾਲੇ ਸਾਚੇ ਸਾਹਿਬਾ ਗਿਆਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਗਾਤਾ ਤੇਰੇ ਸਭ ਕੁਛ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਤੇ ਸੋ ਪਾਵੇ ਸਦਾ ਸਿਫਤ ਸਲਾਹ ਤੇਰੀ ਨਾਮ ਮਨ ਵਸਾਵੇ ਨਾਮ ਜਿਨ ਕੇ ਮਨ ਵਸਿਆ ਵਾਜੇ ਸਤਿ ਨੇੜੇ ਗਏ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੱਚੇ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਗਿਆਨ ਨਹੀਂ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਸੱਚਾ ਨਾਮ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਧਾਰੋ ਸੱਚ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ ਆਧਾਰ ਮੇਰਾ ਜਿਨ ਭੁੱਖਾ ਸਭ ਗਵਾਈਆਂ ਕਰ ਸਾਧ ਸੁਖ ਮਾਇਆ ਰਸਿਆ ਜਿਨੀ ਚਾਰ ਸਭ ਗੁਜਾਰੀਆਂ ਸਦਾ ਕੁਰਬਾਨ ਕੀਤਾ ਗੁਰ ਵਿਟੋ ਦਿਸਦੀਆਂ ਇਹ ਵਡਿਆ ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਸੁਣੋ ਸੰਤੋ ਸਭ ਤਰੋ ਪਿਆਰੋ ਸੱਚਾ ਨਾਮ ਮੇਰਾ ਆਧਾਰੋ ਵਾਜੇ ਪੰਜ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਕਰ ਸੁਭਾਗੇ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਵਾਜੇ ਗਲਾ ਜਿਨ ਕਰਤਾਰਿਆ ਵਾਜ ਤੁਧ ਵਾਸ ਕੀਤੇ ਗਾਲ ਜਗਤ ਕੁਮਾਰਿਆ ਤਨ ਕਰਮ ਪਾਇਆ ਤੁਝੇ ਕੋ ਸੇ ਨਾਮ ਹਰ ਕੇ ਲਾਗੇ ਕਹੇ ਨਾਨਕ ਤੈ ਸੋ ਆਦਿ ਕਰਨ ਬਲਵਾਜੇ ਹੰਸ ਸਰੋਵਰ ਭਾਗਿਓ ਸਰਬ ਮਨੋਰਥ ਪੂਰੇ ਪਾਰਮ ਪ੍ਰਪਾਇਆ ਉਤਰੇ ਸਗਲ ਸੂਰੇ ਦੂਗਰੋ ਸੰਲਾਭ ਉਤਰੇ ਸੁਣੀ ਸੱਚੀ ਬਾਣੀ ਸੰਤ ਸਜ ਪੈ ਸਸੇ ਪੂਰੇ ਗੁਰ ਦੇ ਰਾਣੀ ਜੀ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਪਨਿਕ ਕਹਤੇ ਪਵੇ ਸਭ ਕਰਿਆ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ ਰੇ ਦਿਨ ਬੰਦ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੁਰ ਚਰਨ ਲਾਗੇ ਵਾਜੇ ਅਨਹਦ ਪੂਰੇ ਸੁਣਦੇ ਪਨਿਕ ਕਹਤੇ ਪਵੇ ਸਭ ਕਰਿਆ ਪ੍ਰਭੂ ਰੇ ਦਿਨ ਬੰਦ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੁਰ ਚਰਨ ਲਾਗੇ ਵਾਜੇ ਅਨਹਦ ਪੂਰੇ ਸੰਤ ਨਾਨਕ ਗੁਰ ਚਰਨ ਲਾਗੇ ਵਾਜੇ ਅਨਹਦ ਪੂਰੇ
ਸਾਲੋਕ ਪਵਨ ਗੁਰੂ ਪਾਣੀ ਪਿਤਾ ਮਾਤਾ ਤਰਤ ਮਹਤ ਦਿਵਸ ਰਾਤ ਦੋਇ ਦਾਈ ਦਾਇਆ ਖੇਲੇ ਸਗਲ ਜਗਤ ਚੰਗਿਆਈਆਂ ਬੁਰਿਆਈਆਂ ਵਾਚੇ ਧਰਮ ਹਦੂਰ ਕਰਮੀ ਆਪੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਕੇ ਨੇੜੇ ਕੇ ਦੂਰ ਜਿਤਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਗਏ ਸਕਤ ਗਾਲਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਉਜਲੇ ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਜਿਤਨੀ ਨਾਮ ਤੇ ਆਇਆ ਗਏ ਸਕਤ ਗਾਲਾ ਨਾਨਕ ਤੇ ਮੁਖੀ ਉਜਲੇ ਕੇਤੀ ਛੁੱਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਠਾਕੁਰ ਤੁਮ ਪੈਰਾਸ ਜੀਓ ਪਿੰਡ ਸਾਧ ਤੇਰੀ ਰਾਸ ਤੁਮ ਮਾਤ ਪਿਤਾ ਹਮ ਬਾਰਕ ਤੇਰੇ ਤੁਮਰੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਮੈਂ ਸੂਖ ਕਰੇ कोई न जाने तुमरा अंत उचेते जागवंत सगल समग्री तुमरे सूतर तारी तुम ते होए सो आज्ञाकारी तुमरी गत मित तुम ही जानी नानक दास सदा कुर्बानी तुद आगे अरदास जियो पिंड सब तेरा वाहिगुरु कहो नानक सब तेरी वड्याई कोई नाम न जाने मेरा वाहिगुरु। अरदास एक ओंकार श्री वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। श्री भगवती जी सहाय वार श्री भगवती जी की पातशाही तस्वीर प्रथम भगवती सिमर के गुरु नानक ਲਈ ਧਿਆਏ ਫਿਰ ਅੰਗਦ ਗੁਰ ਤੇ ਅਮਰਦਾਸ ਰਾਮਦਾਸੈ ਹੋਏ ਸਹਾਏ ਅਰਜਨ ਹਰ ਗੋਬਿੰਦ ਨੋ ਸਿਮਰੋ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿ ਰਾਏ। ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਹਰਿ ਕ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਨ ਜੀ ਧਿਆਈਏ ਜਿਸ ਡਿਠੇ ਸਭ ਦੁੱਖ ਜਾਏ ਤੇਗ ਬਹਾਦਰ ਸਿਮਰਿਏ ਘਰ ਨੌਨਿਦ ਆਵੇ ਤਾਏ ਸਭ ਥਾਈ ਹੋਏ ਸਹਾਏ। ਦਸਾਂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਜੋਤ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਪਾਠ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਕਰਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਪੰਜਾਂ ਪਿਆਰਿਆਂ ਚੌਹਾਂ ਸਾਹਿਬਜ਼ਾਦਿਆਂ 40 ਮੁਕਤਿਆਂ ਖਟੀਆਂ ਜਪੀਆਂ ਤਪੀਆਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਨਾਮ ਜਪਿਆ ਵੰਡ ਛਕਿਆ ਦੇਖ ਚਲਾਹੀ ਤੇਗ ਵਾਹੀ ਦੇਖ ਕੇ ਅਣਡਿਠ ਕੀਤਾ ਤਿਨਾਂ ਪਿਆਰਿਆਂ ਸੱਚਿਆਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਕਮਾਈ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ। ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਸਿੰਘਾਂ ਸਿੰਘਣੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਧਰਮ ਹੇਤ ਸੀਸ ਦਿੱਤੇ
ਬੰਦ ਬੰਦ ਕਟਵਾਏ ਖੋਪਰੀਆਂ ਲਹਾਈਆਂ, ਚਰਖੜਿਆਂ ਤੇ ਚੜੇ ਤਨ ਆਰਿਆਂ ਨਾ ਚਿਰਵਾਏ ਗਏ। ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਲਈ ਕੁਰਬਾਨੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ, ਧਰਮ ਨਹੀਂ ਹਾਰਿਆ। ਸਿੱਖੀ ਕੇਸਾਂ ਸਵਾਸਾਂ ਸੰਗ ਨਿਭਾਈ, ਤਿਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਕਮਾਈ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ, ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ। ਪੰਜਾਂ ਤਖਤਾਂ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰਿਆਂ ਦਾ ਧਿਆਨ ਧਰ ਕੇ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ, ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ। ਪ੍ਰਥਮੇ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਹੈ ਜੀ। ਸਰਬੱਤ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਕੋ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ। ਨਾਮ ਚਿਤ ਆਵੇ ਚਿਤ ਆਵਣ ਕਾ ਸਦਕਾ ਸਰਬ ਸੁਖ ਹੋਵੈ। ਜਹਾਂ ਜਹਾਂ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ, ਤਹਾਂ ਤਹਾਂ ਰਚਿਆ ਰਿਆਇਤ। ਦੇਖ ਦੇਖ ਫਤਿਹ ਬਿਰਦ ਕੀ ਪੈਜ, ਪੰਥ ਕੀ ਜੀਤ। ਸ੍ਰੀ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਸਹਾਏ, ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਕੇ ਬੋਲ ਬਾਲੇ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ, ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ। ਹੇ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ, ਆਪਣੇ ਸਿੱਖਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ੋ ਸਿੱਖੀ ਦਾਨ, ਕੇਸ ਦਾਨ, ਰਹਿਤ ਦਾਨ, ਵਿਵੇਕ ਦਾਨ, ਵਿਸਾਹ ਦਾਨ, ਭਰੋਸਾ ਦਾਨ, ਦਾਨਾ ਸਿਰਦਾਨ, ਨਾਮ ਦਾਨ। ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤਸਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਜੀ ਦੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਇਸ਼ਨਾਨ, ਚੌਂਕੀਆਂ ਝੰਡੇ ਬੁੰਗੇ, ਜੁਗੋ ਜੁਗ ਅਟਲ। ਧਰਮ ਕਾ ਜੈਕਾਰ, ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ, ਬੋਲੋ ਜੀ। ਹੇ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ, ਆਪਣੇ ਪੰਥ ਦੇ ਸਦਾ ਸਹਾਈ ਦਾਤਾਰ ਜੀਓ। ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਨਨਕਾਣਾ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਤੇ ਹੋਰ ਗੁਰਦੁਆਰੇ ਗੁਰਧਾਮਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪੰਥ ਨੂੰ ਵਿਛੋੜਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਹੈ, ਖੁੱਲੇ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਦੀਦਾਰ ਤੇ ਸੇਵਾ ਸੰਭਾਲ ਦਾ ਦਾਨ ਖਾਲਸਾ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਖਸ਼ੋ। ਹੇ ਨਿਮਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਮਾਣ, ਹੇ ਨਿਤਾਣਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਤਾਣ, ਹੇ ਨਿਓਟਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਓਟ, ਹੇ ਨੀ ਆਸਰਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਆਸਰੇ, ਹੇ ਨੀ ਧਿਰਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਧਿਰ, ਹੇ ਨੀ ਗਤਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਗਤ, ਹੇ ਨੀ ਪਤਿਆਂ ਦੀ ਪਤ। ਹੇ ਸੱਚੇ ਪਿਤਾ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਓਟ ਆਸਰੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਅੱਜ ਬਾਥ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੁਸਾਇਟੀ ਨੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਔਨ ਕੈਂਪਸ ਲਿਖਿਆ। ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਹੋਈ ਆ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਬੱਚੇ ਇਕੱਠੇ ਹੋ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਪਹਿਲੀ ਵਾਰੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੁਸਾਇਟੀ ਸੈਟਅਪ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ। ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਸੇਵਾ ਦਾ, ਜਿੰਨੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹਨ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੇ ਮਿਹਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਹੱਥ ਰੱਖਣਾ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, ਤੇ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨੀ ਐਵੇਂ ਹੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਸੁਸਾਇਟੀ ਇਸ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਚੱਲਦੀ ਰਹੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਉੱਚੀ ਵਿੱਦਿਆ ਦਾ ਦਾਨ ਬਖਸ਼ੋ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਕਾਮ ਕ੍ਰੋਧ ਲੋਭ ਮੋਹ ਅਹੰਕਾਰ ਜਿਹੇ ਵਿਕਾਰਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਬਚਾਉਣਾ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਗੁਰਮਤਿ ਸੰਗੀਤ ਅਕੈਡਮੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕੀਰਤਨ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ, ਹੋਰ ਕਥਾ ਕਰਦਿਆਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਦੀਆਂ ਭੁੱਲਾਂ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਆਪਣੇ ਅਣਜਾਣ ਬੱਚੇ ਸਮਝ ਕੇ ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨੇ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ। ਅੱਖਰ ਵਾਧਾ ਘਾਟਾ ਭੁੱਲ ਚੁੱਕ ਮਾਫ ਕਰਨੇ, ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਜ ਰਾਸ ਕਰਨੇ। ਸਹੀ ਪਿਆਰੇ ਮੇਲ ਜਿਨਾ ਮਿਲਿਆ, ਤੇਰਾ ਨਾਮ ਚਿਤ ਆਵੇ। ਨਾਨਕ ਨਾਮ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ, ਤੇਰੇ ਭਾਣੇ ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ। ਦੋਹਰਾ ਗਿਆ ਭਈ ਅਕਾਲ ਕੀ, ਤਬੇ ਚਲਾਇਓ ਪੰਥ। ਸਭ ਸਿੱਖਨ ਕੋ ਹੁਕਮ ਹੈ, ਗੁਰੂ ਮਾਨਿਓ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ। ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਜੀ ਮਾਨਿਓ, ਪ੍ਰਗਟ ਗੁਰਾਂ ਕੀ ਦੇ। ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਕੋ ਮਿਲ ਬੋਚ ਹੈ, ਖੋਜ ਸ਼ਬਦ ਮੈਂ ਲਹੇ। ਰਾਜ ਕਰੇਗਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਆਖੀ ਰਹੇ ਨ ਕੋਇ। ਵਾਰ ਹੋਏ ਸਭ ਮਿਲेंगे, ਬਚੇ ਸ਼ਰਨ ਜੋ ਹੋਏ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਮ ਜਹਾਜ ਹੈ, ਚੜੇ ਸੁਤਰੇ ਪਾਰ। ਜੋ ਸਰਦਾ ਕਰ ਸੇਵਦੇ, ਗੁਰ ਪਾਰ ਉਤਾਰਨ ਹਾਰ। ਖੰਡਾ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਹਾਥ ਮੈਂ, ਕਲਗੀ ਸੋ ਹੈ ਸੀਸ। ਸੋ ਹਮਰੀ ਰਛਿਆ ਕਰੇ, ਗੁਰ ਕਲਗੀ ਧਰ ਜਗਦੀਸ਼। ਸੋ ਹਮਰੀ ਰਛਿਆ ਕਰੇ, ਗੁਰ ਕਲਗੀ ਧਰ ਜਗਦੀਸ਼। ਬੋਲੇ ਸੋ ਨਿਹਾਲ, ਸਤਿ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕਾ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਜੀ ਕੀ ਫਤਿਹ।
The first one.
No, first one I find easier.
Huh?
The slow slower. Because I had to perform with Baljeet Singh students, and it was hard because they trying to keep the slow pace. And then I got Ustadji looking in front of me. Yeah. No, but I had a Ustad Baljeet Singh who sat in front of me, and his Lakshmi was there. And then obviously there, he's looking at me. Feeling up, okay, got to bring it back down. Because I was told I just had to play straight theme dance. It was hard.